Hello and welcome to another Not Chilli podcast. Today we're watching the film Dunkirk, and with me I have Josh Lundberg. Now this is a particularly long podcast, which is completely fine because I love what we get into and I love how it all kind of spiels around. We kind of dive into a little bit of technical aspects of Blu-ray 4K HDR. Josh has a bit to say about that. And then we go straight into character and how it all, ties in together. And it was just a blast doing this one. But it is a longer one, so, make sure you bring some extra popcorn. Anyway, sit back and enjoy. And thank you very much for being a part of this. I can sometimes, if I don't think about it, I can sometimes let it go.
Yeah.
So someone will be eating, and I'll be like, okay, no, that's right. Don't think about it. And I can kind of zone myself out of it. But when someone makes that joke up and goes, oh no, then my brain goes straight to the fucking source of the sound. And then I can't.
Always Sunny that I really want you to watch now.
Yeah.
It's like this person who's watching comedy, eating popcorn, and they're being like, it's like the most.
And the frustrating thing about it is that I know I'm being wrong about this. You're on
the wrong side of history. The world likes potato chips and enjoys eating them,
and seems to really enjoy the sound of them.
It's deeply satisfying. I wouldn't be surprised if the sound of eating a chip is a huge part of why they're so addictive.
Oh no, that's when I was listening to the podcast. There is an element to that.
Yeah,
there is something about the sound that's satisfying. Even remember, was it Smiths? They had that whole ad campaign at the end of it. It'd be like, that was their tagline noise. There is a huge element to it. The same thing with Doritos and, but the same thing with Doritos and the powdery stuff getting on your fingers. They can make a chip that just tastes good, but they don't. They want it to be on your fingers because that's what people like.
Yeah.
The excessive use of the flavoring that's all over.
I find it more difficult to eat those now because when I have that on my fingers now, instead of going, ooh, deliciousness, my brain goes, I don't know what those chemicals are.
Yeah.
What are Doritos?
Yeah.
I know there's a corn chip in there somewhere.
It's
long ago.
That makes me think of chicken nuggets. It's
oh yeah.
Kent and I were like, oh man, I wonder how many chicken nuggets you need to eat to make an entire chicken. We figured out the math, and it's about, I think it was 250 chicken nuggets. But the funny thing is, the first thing you do, you look at a McDonald's chicken nugget and you realize it's 40% chicken or some shit.
Yeah.
And the rest is I'm assuming the rest is more the batter and shit.
But it's like their apple pie. Their apple pie uses that, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a vegetable that has essentially no flavor and takes on the flavor of anything that it's near.
And then you inject it.
So most of the chunks in the apple pie at McDonald's, as far as I know, unless they've changed it, is this vegetable that tastes like the apple and cinnamon that's in the rest of the apple pie.
Yeah, right. That's so interesting.
Because apple is expensive. And
you don't think that, right? You don't think that apples are that expensive?
Oh, fruit is expensive. So on that scale, fruit is hugely expensive. Same with juice. That's why juice is good juice is expensive because it's from the first press.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. Anyway. And what that has to do with...
Well, it does have something to do with Dunkirk because those guys had to struggle with food. Things. And there's that scene where they crack open what I assume is a can of peaches and drink the juices out and pass it along. So that was interesting. But yes, I guess we're here to talk about Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Which, was, I feel like you can't help but want me to watch anxiety-driven films. You're like, hey, what would be fun? Let's watch something that rips into your
pure coincidence.
Sure.
This one was because Christopher Nolan himself was apparently involved in the all of the film transfers of the films that he's had moved over to 4K. So I was just like, oh god, it's got to probably look really good. So if you watch I don't know. If you watch The Matrix on UHD Blu-ray, what they're doing is basically taking the 2K video And like, imagine I take a 2K video, I put it in Handbrake, and I just tell it to change the dimensions to UHD dimensions. That's basically what they're doing. So, whereas a select number of productions actually go back and rescan them. So Christopher Nolan has I think Memento weirdly is like the only one he hasn't done. So all of the Dark Knights have been taken back, rescanned at 4K resolution. Dunkirk, Inception, The Prestige. What's it called? Interstellar. Yeah, so they've all been rescanned.
What about? Oh, I was going
and
to
the
say,
color rebalance for HDR as
Jeez.
well. So, and that's like a really. I was reading like an interview with him, and I'm no Christopher Nolan fanboy. I think he's like, there's so much that he does that's amazing, but at the same time, like, I find him quite annoying on the whole film versus digital debate.
Oh yeah, he's pretentious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but I still like that he has that element of pride in him that goes, excuse me, Warner Brothers, I know that you're releasing all of my stuff in 4K, but not without me being involved. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Whereas, whatever, for most other directors, or, he's very powerful, I imagine. So, other directors might not even have the opportunity, but there's a huge difference. Like, it's really interesting to see that difference. So that was why Dunkirk was that, because I wanted to watch it and you'd mentioned it, and so I just held off.
I love that.
I wasn't trying to make you anxious.
Sure. I love that
Christopher Nolan
you're like, a lot of people when to watch a movie or something, they're like, oh, look, bigger, brighter colors, yay, but you're like, yeah, but like the way that Nolan converts his videos are actually like better than other people's.
It is.
No, you're right.
Like, particularly in those 70mm sequences. I mean, my God, that looked amazing.
Yeah, that was stunning.
That is for this TV. That is pixel for pixel resolution. There's no upscaling. There's nothing like that happening. There is a pixel for every pixel that's on the TV. And on top of that, they've beautifully used high dynamic range to bring up a lot of the shadows and things like that, and just give you this level of detail that this didn't exist. But haven't gone like, look at this with it.
Yeah.
It's really, that's why he's an interesting filmmaker, I think. And when I watched the rescan of Batman Begins, which is a film I'm quite familiar with visually, and watching that like rescanned at 4K, it's like just amazing.
Night and day, would you say?
It really, really made me want to get Dark Knight on 4K, because like the 70mm sequences of that must be incredible.
Do you know, I think it would be funny if suddenly like they ran it through, whatever the process is, and made it HDR and all that other bollocks that you know about, and then suddenly like the shots where like Batman appears out of the shadows, he's like, you see him
he's standing there the whole time.
Obviously he wouldn't be dumb enough to do that, but part of my brain goes, that would be fucking hilarious if now all the secret is like, you even see like a guy rolling like behind there, like because we churn freaking film cameras, and rolling the shot from a different angle. It's like, you won't see him because it's in the darkness. It's like, no, it's there.
He's there now. But I mean, for Batman Begins, which is like 13 years old, that's an interesting one, because that wasn't shot a year and a half ago like Dunkirk,
and that wasn't IMAX, I assume.
No, I don't think they had any. Yeah, I think that was all 35, and the but the thing that's interesting about it is like them being able to pull anything else out of that film, because film overall, compared to when you intentionally shoot HDR with a digital camera, it has vastly more dynamic range than film ever can. And so to see something that was standard, dynamic range, be put through that process of just getting the maximum amount of film, it was quite interesting. But at first I was sort of like, oh, okay, that looks okay, because I'm so used to the blacks being crushed in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
So,
and it's the appropriate movie for it.
It is, yeah. The thing that I like is that with the HDR stuff, like, that's put into your hands. You can custom create a mode on your TV that says, hey, I'm watching Dark Knight, so I'm going to crush the blacks for this one. Whereas you can have it set to another mode and all that kind of stuff. So you have options now, whereas before it was just, you know, limited by the television and limited by the bandwidth of, you know, information you can get off of, get onto the discs and all that kind of stuff.
I wonder if that's like a thing now where like a director will be like in the same way that when I record sound, part of the process is going, okay, where's this going to end? If this is going to end online, then
Totally.
someone's earbuds,
Yeah.
crappy earbuds, are going to be what people listen to, or laptop speakers, and I get a lot more. Well, like the quality is a drop, but I also get a bit more pull when it comes to ambient noise. So I wonder if like people like Nolan would be like, I wish everyone bought a Samsung model 762441, which has like the perfect.
He wishes everyone bought a projector. I think that's the...
a film projector. That's right.
I don't think no, he loves digital projection as far as I'm aware, because digital projection gives you a standard. So he likes shooting on film, but projection, film projection could be like at the same cinema you could be showing the same film and it would look different in each of the
because everything
cinemas.
degrades differently.
And how calibrated it is per thing. Oh, I see how it is. Do I sound warmer now?
A little bit. Yeah, that's the money. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so I think there's all that kind of stuff is really cool. But
Of course you do.
so, I mean,
Which is what but like that's interesting on itself, because it's not just, we didn't just watch Dunkirk. We watched Dunkirk on a HDR TV, which is optimized with a DVD or Blu-ray that's optimized for HDR. That's 4K. That's that's not a part of the conversation that shouldn't happen.
yeah, the thing that I love about these ideas of people going through and rescanning and remastering and things like that. I watched a Beatles film, A Hard Day's Night. It's really silly, but it's so much funnier than I remembered it being.
Funnier? I never.
Oh, it's a comedy. It's a comedy.
Oh.
Starring the Beatles in like the height of their sort of the hysteria part of their career.
Oh, cool.
And it had been remastered. Because I was sitting there watching it and I was like, this has to have been remastered. And I hadn't looked at the box yet. And then because it was just stunning. Mm-hmm. Looked at the box afterwards and I was like, yeah, Mum, it's been gone through a remaster. It looks really good. And she was like, I remember it looking like that. And I was like, I can guarantee you've never seen this film looking like that. Like the worst you have ever seen it was at the cinema in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they've done to it. And when you watch, even the Jaws 1080p Blu-ray, that's from a 4K rescan. And then they downsampled it to 1080, and it's like clear as day. Whereas if you watch the DVD, it isn't a rescan. It's just whatever the digital thing that they had before. And you can see like dirt and shit, like just all the crap that is associated with film. Is all there, and on the 4K, you're just sort of like, God, it looks like they shot this last year. Sorry, not the 4K, the Blu-ray, which is from the 4K master. It's amazing how they can do that stuff with films, but yeah, when it comes to the 4K Blu-rays with HDR, a lot of that is bullshit. I think the only film that is from beginning to end actually 100% those things is Star Wars Episode 8. It's the only one. Because even if you're making a film and you're like shooting it at 5K or 6K or whatever, if it has visual effects, they're almost certainly rendering those at 2K. Because you're basically looking at the difference between, X number of million pixels versus X number of million pixels and so on. So yeah, I think 4K is like 8 million pixels in that kind of area, and 8K is like 13 million and something pixels. And so it's this thing of there's a real cost element at some point in the pipeline, and that's usually visual effects when it comes to resolution. And the thing that's really, really interesting is, for Star Wars, they did all the VFX in actual 4K, so that they could deliver it at 4K, which is kind of a shame because Force Awakens isn't. That was 2K rendering as far as I'm aware, because that was shot on film.
Oh.
I'd have to double check because I think they did actually also do episode 8 on film. I think Rogue One. I'm pretty sure. Rogue One was
It
shot
looked
on
like
reds and stuff.
Oh,
like
right, that looked different. I was gonna
yeah,
say.
it was digital.
So what does it like? Not special effects wise, but in like a Nolan film, which he uses a lot of practical effects. What to you, ignoring what technically it does, what does it to you as like how do you feel about the difference in like HDR and the 4K compared to watching that on like a 1080p without any of those fancy features? How do you feel different watching it?
One of the things I really like about it is that so particularly with Nolan stuff, right? So they're shooting on film. It's much harder to pull focus and all that kind of stuff. I like that the film is very evident. Like I didn't notice at the cinema, by the way, the vibration in the cockpits.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice it. So at that resolution, right in front of us, I was just sitting there going, "Oh my god!" I didn't realize before that like all the shots of Tom Hardy were like going like,
Yeah.
and I love all that stuff. Like the fact that the craft is felt in it was something that I really, really like about it. But overall, and that's so I hadn't seen Dunkirk presented that way previously. Before that, the best thing I'd seen was I rebought Planet Earth 2 at 4K HDR because I'm pretty sure that was the first thing of any type of production, so not film, but like of any type of production that was like, okay, we're shooting it with 4K cameras in HDR and blah, 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 blah. And, but when they have situations where I have to use a different camera, it's quite funny because you can like just totally tell.
Very jarring. Not very, but it is jarring.
I shouldn't. Yeah, it's, it makes you go, oh my god, the quality of the other stuff is so high. And so I think that's what is really amazing with Dunkirk is that all that 70mm stuff, the way that it scans in at 4K is unbelievable. Like there's just so much detail in those shots. But then like from the filmmaking point of view though, the flip side is like the amount of pressure to make, like you can't have anything in those shots that betrays the film. Then you can't have like something in the background that it's sort of really obvious at that resolution, whereas before like you could have shit in the background and people would never notice it because you wouldn't see it on the projector and blah 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 and all these things. It's like now it's like the amount of scrutiny that you can put into it into these images is really high, so it like amps up that pressure to do things like perfectly.
So it still sounds like for you, it's still a technical impressiveness that you get from something that's 4K HDR that's done by Nolan. Or is there actually something that like if you break all that down, you like I feel more, it's more visceral. It makes me feel like I'm more there. Like, is there any kind of emotional aspect?
Like the way that they did the 70mm shots of I think it's called the Moonshine or the Moonside.
Yeah, that's
something.
that boat. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Of that boat, the way that they do all the 70mm shots of that boat, like all the blues and the purples and the greys and the bits of yellow contrasted against the white and the browns of the boat. The sharpness of it and the clarity of that image, to me, it totally makes me feel like I'm on that water with them. Mm-hmm. That's not wank to me. That's not nonsense. That's just, that is really immersive. To me, it's really hard to... The really annoying aspect of HDR is that you can't take a photo of it and say that's because then the person the camera you're taking the photo with has to have HDR and whatever the person's looking at it on has to have HDR. So like you have to see it, and once you've seen it, you sort of go, "Oh, I get it now." And yeah, I admire it for the incredible technical prowess of it, but what it then does is takes away things that do detract. So, for example, one of the worst offending things is banding, right? Which is when, say, you've got like a shot of the sky, but there's like 50 different blues in the sky. So on a standard dynamic range panel, it'll step. So it'll like, there'll be at some point a hard changeover in the gradient.
Right. Yeah.
In a high dynamic range image, that doesn't happen, or it is at the very least, if it doesn't happen if done properly, and if it hasn't been done particularly well, it'll still be hugely reduced, where basically the panel can show all the subtle colors in between. And so when you watch something like Planet Earth, where you have all this nature and so many big blue skies and all that kind of stuff, and none of that is there, if you sit near that, like, you don't even need to actually. When you watch that, it's like, it feels like there's a snow leopard in the room.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like there's some kind of looking glass between you and the subject. And I think that Nolan with Dunkirk does that really, really well.
Do you think that if you took that away from it, it would greatly lessen the experience of that movie, of Dunkirk?
No, it's enhanced, as opposed to like you can't feel it without those things.
Yep.
So, and by the way, I'm aware that I had a juxtaposition there where like, you can see the flaws in it and all the filmmaking in it. I love that about the resolution and all that kind of stuff. And then I've said, but it gets rid of the filmmaking, and but I know that there's like a clashing of those two things, but that's like an audience member
And
on the one
filmmaker.
side, and so and someone who's like interested in these things on the other side. So I didn't mean to like say that those as like conflicting things, but no, like this film is such a dramatic sound design and music design piece, and it relies so much on those things. The reason I admire the film is because of the extraordinary restraint of it. He can get any budget he wants, effectively, really. Like, and to decide, you know what, I'm only going to use real planes. You know what, I'm only going to use real boats. I think my interpretation of what he's done with this film in that regard is that he's gone, what is at the core of this story? And it's the fact that everyone was in limbo. Mm-hmm. It's waiting.
Yeah.
And you don't know, you're waiting for one of two things. And the people there at the time knew that those two things were death or rescue. Mm-hmm. One of them.
Yeah.
How do you put an audience into that point of view? And so he boils it down to just that. He doesn't try to do anything else with the film. He doesn't go, all right, now, like, we're going to show how bloody it was, and we're going to show this, and we're going to... There's not a drop of blood in that, in that
There is.
that film.
I didn't have that thought, but there is, and that's with the... by the way, spoilers.
Oh, the boy
gets in the head. But it's never, like, spurting blood, or, like, you could have had blood dripping on the floor. There was none of that. It was very...
But, like, no one gets shot, and it's, like, bleeding out and all that kind of stuff. He sort of took everything that's great about today, in terms of what you can do with filmmaking... And then he took everything that was really great about the old war films, like A Bridge Too Far and stuff like that. When you go back and look, like The Longest Day and stuff like that, they're just not...
They don't hold up.
Yeah. I mean, the British side of it does, I think. But the American side, like John Wayne walking up and down Omaha Beach or whatever, being like, all right, guys, we're going to go and do... You're like... Yeah, not really though.
Yeah, what's Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah, a lot more Saving Private Ryan in that situation than John Wayne walking around with a pistol.
Yeah.
So, but like A Bridge Too Far, that's a really good example.
But those are two actually good comparisons, actually, when now that I think of it, is like Saving Private Ryan, which I think was a brilliant film, and Dunkirk. Different intentions, but still, in my opinion, two really, really good portrayals of war.
I 100% agree. I think that there's this thing that I've thought about for a really long time, which is A Bridge Too Far is a great example in this, actually. So, A Bridge Too Far is about the attempted Allied invasion of Holland, Operation Market Garden, right? Which is the largest airborne invasion in history. And there were Polish people involved, the external Polish forces who were like based in Britain. They were involved. The French, the of course the Germans, the British, the Americans. But it was led by it was a British idea, and so they were all charging in and going in. And that film tries to look at it from all of their perspectives. And so you get a really great idea of strategically what happened. You get a brilliant idea of what happened. You don't care so much for everyone that's involved. Contrast that against, for example, Band of Brothers. Those soldiers did go in Operation Market Garden. I think it's one episode that focuses on it. It might be two, but I'm pretty sure it's one. But like the emotional involvement that you have with them in that and what it felt like to be there was visceral. Like it was you.
What do you mean by visceral?
Well, that it was just like you really felt it, and you could appreciate what it felt like to steamroll into a country just to very, very quickly be overrun again. And you felt that. Whereas when you watch a Bridge Too Far, you intellectually understand that.
Right.
When, for example, like that was old style filmmaking, like the head of the Polish guys is fucking played by Gene Hackman.
Yeah, right.
Like you wouldn't do that now. You'd find a Polish actor or someone from that region to do that. So that's the type of sort of film where it's like, yeah, let's just get it, and everyone's in it. And so I think you have these things where I don't think that you can do both. I think you can tell the emotional story of war, or you can tell the
horrors.
No. To me, that to me is the emotional story, or you can tell the overarching, strategic, global perspective of war. And so, when you do that, when you decide to do the emotional one, the first thing you have to do is go, okay, what are the historical things we're getting rid of? Because go watch a documentary if you want to figure that shit out. And, if Dunkirk was a Bridge Too Far, we'd be cutting to Churchill, then we'd be cutting to Hitler, then we'd be cutting to France to see the German command, we'd be cutting to the tanks, we'd be cutting all over the place, right? Whereas all Nolan was focused on was, I want everyone to understand the time pressure on this beach. I want everyone to understand the urgency and the terror.
And not even just understand, but feel.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I want you to feel that.
Because that's my experience of this film. And this is twice I've watched this now, and both times you start just sitting there normally, and then by the end of the film, you're clutching at your chest.
Yeah.
Just not even consciously, subconsciously, you just realize you're doing it, and then like half an hour or an hour into the film, you're like, oh, I'm gripping myself. This is crazy.
It's really amazing how it does that. And it's because they take that personal approach. As we were just talking about before, it's like we don't really know any of the characters' names and stuff, except for like George, the kid that gets hit.
Of course.
Head. Yeah. But they say his name like 50 times.
That's right. Otherwise, they barely even talk. I think we have basically 6 or so leads in this film, and I think 3 of them have a real dialogue.
Yeah.
Like all the other ones might say a couple of words, or might, copy that, Roger this, they're coming, or something, whatever the words are, but like it's really very. I mean, the funny irony of this film is Nolan's notorious in the sound world. He's notorious for being like, I want to get it on the boom, on location, and I'm like, as a recorder, I'd be like, well, this would be difficult, but not a lot of work,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I could get this. This will be fine. We'll just wait for those moments. And so anyway, that's one of the thoughts that went through my head when I was watching this. I'm like, I would have loved to do this job. To be honest, like, Nolan, hire me, please, because that would be amazing. But on another element of it, it's like, I was really thinking about the challenges as a recordist, recording on a boat, recording on the water, and like just the torrents of footsteps and loud suits. IMAX cameras in those moments. I mean, those, to be honest, that's they would probably, if they're shooting IMAX, they're probably got a boom over it, but they're not shooting dialogue.
Yeah.
So yeah,
A lot of that was shot 70, surprisingly.
more than you think, but
Yeah.
also coincidentally, a lot of that didn't have dialogue.
Yeah.
So that's probably where that middle ground was meant.
Yeah, I think it's I really think it's interesting what he's done with this film when he's so heavily focused on the spirit and the feeling of this event, and just gone, guys, the historical accuracy is like irrelevant to what we're doing here. Because, you know, I think the first review I read about was going about, this is how many destroyers there really were, and this is how many planes there really were, and I'm a World War II history buff. Like I'm obsessed with it, and so I kind of felt, I didn't see it until late in the cinema run, because I sort of needed those feelings to die down of like, I don't want to go into this movie closed-minded and be like, that's not what, you know, this was, you know, blah blah blah. And when I went in and saw the film, I fell in love with it completely, like by about halfway, because I went, what you have managed to do with this film is give us a true sense of what it felt like, and it no longer matters. It doesn't matter if the person walking into the cinema doesn't really understand Dunkirk or what happened there.
Yeah.
It's enough of an emotional experience that you will walk out, and I'm sure tons of people went home and jumped on Wikipedia at least, or YouTube or something.
Yeah.
You know, but just as a sensory experience and like an emotional experience, it's so intense, and it's all, in my opinion, because everything is boiled down to like, how many lines does you know, the father need to say, how many lines does this guy really need to say. It feels like there were lines throughout the whole, you know, the script was full.
Yep.
And then it's sort of like, that's not necessary, can do that with a look, can do that with a shot. Just, it was pure filmmaking is what he's doing with the film, and it's incredible to see. Like, that, what's so incredible about it as well is you get that sense of, once they'd finished shooting, you could have cut because of the reliance on physical. Imagine how much of that film they could have actually assembled. Because it wasn't like, oh, and then this 3 minutes is missing because it's all green screen and this bit's missing here.
Right.
It's amazing what they did, and that they didn't try and go, oh, let's hide away these buildings because like they're not part of the period and stuff like that. Like, no one's gonna notice, like, because that's not the point of the film. The point of the film is, how do these people feel?
And no one's looking at the buildings. They're all looking at the beach and and how many soldiers are there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really it's an art of trickery in that film.
I mean, there very clearly wasn't 400,000 people on the beach. No. And again, like, surely the vast majority of directors would go, make sure you CGI in 400,000 people. I know I would. But he didn't, because he was focused. That's why that film is so successful. In my opinion, about creating the feelings, is because he hones in on us understanding who is feeling what and why they're feeling it. And the thing that's interesting is, as well, just history, right? It's like, there were Nazis and there were a lot of bad guys. And then he takes all these incredible shortcuts, beautiful shortcuts, not like cheating shortcuts, but, you know, how do I explain the context? Okay, a few bits of text, you know, from a traditional standpoint, that's, you know, all right,
it's cliche.
Exposition, but whatever. But it's important because he then ties it in with the pamphlet that he picks up, the propaganda piece he's picked up. And there's a visual demonstration that says, here are the Nazis, here are us. That's the film you're watching. This is where the protagonists are on the beach. That's what's happening. And they're surrounded by the red. The red is Nazis. Go. It's fucking brilliant. And it doesn't, you know, it's not lying. It's so well done. And then the other aspect of this, you know, aside from the immense power of sound and music, is how he uses time. And how I love that from the start, that the first time it comes up and it goes, the beach, 1 week. When I was in the cinema, I was like, 1 week what? And then it comes up with the next one. The sea, 1 day.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And then it comes up with the plane, it's like 1 hour. And you're like, oh, right. Okay. So like everything that I see at the beach is set across a week. Everything that I see on the boat is set across a day. And everything I see in the plane is set across an hour. And by the end of the film, all of those are the same timeline.
Yeah.
And the thing that is really brave about it is that concept of decreasing the time limit, the time between repeating timeline. That's hard. Like that's really difficult to do. Like I would love to see the timeline that he very obviously would have visually had, like up in his office or something. There would have been some massive, like 10-meter long whiteboard thing or something. There would have been some visual representation of it, because by the last act of the film, you're sort of going, we're seeing this that boat that we see gets bombed like 4 times.
Yeah.
It's the same moment, and it just keeps happening because it's from like 4 different perspectives.
Yep.
And then you sort of go, oh my god, that was the sunk like fisherman's boat that's like drifted off to the shore, and those guys are now swimming out, and that's like, and all things linking up, and like Cillian Murphy's character, or Cillian Murphy, I can never remember how to pronounce his name, but like, the sailor that picked off of the back of the stern of the sunk ship.
Yep.
And like,
that one.
we both said, like, the first time we saw that movie, like, it didn't even register with me that was the
confident guy on the
confident guy on the boat.
Boat.
And the reason that didn't, I was overwhelmed by the sinking of that ship. I think I was still in the emotional aftermath of that situation. That elevated the film for me even further. The fact that I'd missed that the first time, which I feel stupid about, but
no, like, you feel stupid about it. It's like, was it important that moment was so in your face? They tried the best they could, because they had that shot, the boat gets like rowed away, and we cut to him in like more present time. He's like messed up. So like, they try to bring you in, but does it matter if you noticed?
No,
it doesn't. I mean, it's great and it adds to it, but it's not integral.
It adds quite a lot, I feel, to his character. He is the only person that you don't really get a sense of who he really is. Everyone else you do, because they're tested and you see how they respond. Whereas he gets tested.
We see him post-tested. We don't see how he persevered through that. It's like, I know this is a really weird comparison to make, but it's like American Beauty, where you have one of the main characters being, I can't remember his name, but the guy that's like quiet and the plastic bag film thing, obviously the stereotype. When like he is the odd guy out, he's the kind of weird one, and then he has that moment in front of the TV where he's explaining what he thinks about that plastic bag and why that's so important to him, and he breaks down, and you go, and suddenly this character who has been almost a zombie and a weirdo for this whole time starts to like come up with all this color. And in the same way that shot, like we've been seeing a zombie of a man who, mind you, was a brilliant performance in Dunkirk with, I forgot the actor's name, but
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, that guy. And he does a beautiful performance of like holding it in, but we don't. When we hear, oh, he's shell shocked, it's like, that's just an excuse, and suddenly we see the man that was before the accident, and you go,
different person.
And
that great line of, he'll probably never be the same again.
Yep.
And it's like, and I love how his son understands in that moment, from a justice point of view, from a pure logical point of view, you go, he's like, oh, how's the boy? Will he be all right? You go, no, he won't be fucking all right. He's dead.
You piece of shit.
Yeah. But it's so beautiful that his father, his son has taken from his father the idea that there's no point in making this person more destroyed than they are.
It's just hurting the situation further. Destroying another person for no reason.
because look how much destruction is happening around you. And that's what is so great about this film, is that it's not just like, here's this and the pilot and the this and the this and this. I really get a sense you do get to know everyone in an emotional way. You don't know anything really about them as who they are as a person, what their history is or any of those things. But it's irrelevant because you see them, as I was saying before, it's like, here's the person, what will they do? That's what they do. And through those actions, which is like, that is the most common fuck up in screenwriting, is telling people information all the time. This film is a show.
Yeah.
Like, it's always showing you stuff, and that's the art of cinema.
Well, let's go through it. So one of my favorite moments, other than the one you just talked about when he, says that, like, he lies to the bombshelled soldier about, the boy and him being dead. One of the other moments that I thought, like you described, is kind of like a way to describe the kind of arc of the character and the kind of personality of the character is Tom Hardy's character. When, like, we see it in little bits when, like, the fuel gauge gets busted and he's like, no, we'll be right. Let's keep going. Just give me the numbers. He's like kind of a logical, kind of calculated person. But the moment for me, which kind of told the rest of the film and in his character arc, was when he's chasing that fighter, he's looking at his fuel gauge, and he sees the bomber. And he's like, all right.
In his rear view.
Yeah. And he's like, all right, okay, we're doing the bomb.
Yeah.
Like, we need to do this. I'm out of fuel. I'm out of time. This is it. And then you're like, oh my God. And that, he's obviously like, once again, spoilers, he survives that incident. He, like, that for me, I thought he was going to take his own life at that point. But then he survives that incident, and then he goes on to the beach still, even though, like, I mean, I guess that's probably the safest place to land, because he would have gone into the ocean, I guess. But he goes on, let alone runs out of fuel at the beach, and then finds another opportunity to try to save the people there, risking his life yet again to land in an area which then, risks his life at the end of the thing. I think it's like you described, that's one of my versions of a character arc that I really loved. And you can take on the next one because, there's so many.
I think that's a remarkable one. Gosh, did people not shut up about how much they didn't like that he shot down the Stuka at the end of the film because he was gliding. How did he glide for that long? And blah, blah, blah. It's like...
Come off it.
Well, like...
Did it feel good? Was it amazing? Like, was it a cool moment? Yes. The thing that was funny, do you know what was funny for me? Because someone had told me that. They're like, oh, is this bit of thing? And I spoke to them, I can't remember who it was though. Anyway, it's irrelevant. Afterwards, I said to them, do you know what made the difference for me? They didn't show him turn around. Like, if I'd seen him do a maneuver that I went, come on. But they didn't show him turn around. They just showed him come back the other way. Yeah. I can absolutely take that. Yeah. I don't know what he did. I don't know how high his altitude was.
Yeah,
I don't know if like, something kicked in or some shit. So.
The whole last part of that act is about, hope. As Kenneth Branagh's character says, like, what is it? Hope. It's which is just such a contrived, cheesy line if you say it out of context.
Yeah, if that was in the trailer, then fucking...
I think it is in the trailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is in the trailer. But, like, again, that trailer is structured so well. As we were saying yesterday, actually, when we went to see The Meg, we were watching all these trailers, and it's like, for fuck's sakes, can you stop showing me the whole film? It's like, the trailers for Dunkirk were just...
I remember it.
Stunning.
It's just like...
Yeah.
And it just cuts from like moments to moments through it.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And so like they give you enough of this pressure to then go, what is it? It's hope. So I think that being the real point of the last part of the film, along with that
character arc ending. That was the final
for him it's important, but also on the like context and really understanding the history side of it was that is without question the single largest defeat in the history of the British Empire. And that is...
I love this history element because you were telling me about it. And what was really cool about the way you described it, and they showed it off at the end of the film, was what you were saying to me about that Hitler thought that would be the a demoralizing defeat.
Yeah.
So you tell me more about that, because I was actually like, oh, and you see it at the end of the film.
Yeah, it's that they thought that it would just be so easy now to just send in the Luftwaffe and just steamroll over Britain. But the only reason that England didn't lose, or Britain didn't collapse, was spirit. It sounds so fucking cheesy, but it is absolutely true. It was morale. It was the only thing, aside from the Americans like providing them with shitloads of resources, but they had the will to take those resources and turn them into planes and guns and artillery pieces and anti-aircraft. It's like that is why it is one of the most extraordinary, I say moments, but 18 months in human history. Like it can't be exaggerated, the importance of that period of history, and that it changed the world. What the world was up to that point and what the world was after was a different thing, but it's this little island of people, Wales, Scotland, and England, just basically being, okay, so I guess we'll fight the largest military ever put together by ourselves then. And again, like I said, that yes, absolutely, they were hugely supplied. The only reason they continued going was because the Americans were just pumping them with supplies.
Yeah.
And the Americans lost a lot and sacrificed a lot in terms of like merchant navy and all that kind of stuff. But the point is the British spirit. That's the keep calm, carry on thing that just became fucking just like annoying a few years ago.
I didn't realize that was a war thing.
Yeah, it's just like, keep calm and carry on. And the famous line from Winston Churchill, if you're going through hell, keep going. And Winston Churchill, like once the Battle of Britain kicked in, would do things like go out to bombed out houses and streets and all this kind of stuff and talk to people face to face. Hitler never, ever met civilians in times of disaster, right? So it's this incredible thing of just the culture of these people being the very thing that saved them. In every single other way, they had no right to survive what happened next. They had no right to survive what happened at Dunkirk. But but I'm not talking morally, obviously. I'm talking about like intellectually or strategically, yeah. they had no, there's just no reason why that could possibly come together. But it's like, oh, I know, let's just send over a whole bunch of civilians, like, oh, you have a little boat, off you go to France, like across one of the most dangerous parts of water, in the region. So choppy and can do all these things. The seas happen to be very relatively calm, like all this luck sort of stuff fell in, and you sort of have that sort of the British concept of destiny and British like perspective on destiny, and I think that there's all that sort of stuff plays into it. But the fact that you can go through that moment and decide you're going to continue, nobody else did that.
Well, there's three beautiful moments in the film that remind me that they display that. So obviously there's and this is not in chronological order necessarily, but there's a moment when they're the main soldier that's kind of trying to flee. They're hopping onto the train. They get given the blankets, and he's like, "Well done," like. Well, I forgot if that was what the guy is saying, who was either blind, like you were speculating that it might have been.
Yeah, I think it's a World War I veteran who got hit by mustard gas. That's just me making it up, but I wouldn't be surprised knowing.
Considering it was quite obvious. Like he touched the guy's face. Yeah. He hands them thing. He never looks at someone in the eye.
And he says, "All we did was survive," and he says, "That's enough."
Yeah, that's right.
Why would you have that perspective? And he was like 60, 70 years old, so he was the right age, like that kind of stuff.
And then there's a moment in the train, like shortly after, which is like, he reads the headline and sort of like Churchill talks about Dunkirk, and he's like, oh great, we're going to be spat on. I can't bear to read this. And then they do read it, and it's a kind of story about triumph over adversity. I mean, still talks about a military failure, but it talks about triumph. You have those two moments, which are awesome. And then you have that moment with the Navy, I'm assuming general, the guy that plays the guy who's also a director, who's
Kenneth Branagh. I
yeah,
think he's an admiral. But
Admiral, yeah, whatever it was, where he was like, hold the line, hold the line, hold the line, and then he sees the boats, and you could just see him tears up.
Yeah.
Like it was
4K
worth it.
resolution.
And it was like, even that made me tear up because I was like, oh my God, like you could feel the joy in him being like, my people are coming. Like it was all worth it.
Yeah, that moment where he's asking people where they're from. And
Yeah.
And he says, I can't remember where the guy says, he's like, I can't remember the place that the guy on the small boat says. And he, obviously this guy, he goes to the guy on the little boat. He's come this far. He obviously knows something about sailing. And yet Kenneth Branagh's character gives him some advice. He says, make sure that you watch the swell around this going back home. It's like, it's his home, but it's not what he's saying.
Well, there's actually a moment right before then which perfectly describes that. So the first lady's from, my God.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Dublin, I think?
No.
I can't think of it, but like, but where are you from? And she goes, I'm from blah, blah, blah. He's like, great, thank you. And then he goes, are you from... So let alone, he didn't just ask him, he knew where he was from. He knew where he was going. So that's why it leads into that camaraderie that exists and that kind of like that joy that he has. There's like my people, because let alone it's not just someone from somewhere that's around that place. He's like, you're from where I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
And that's that thing. It's like I say, like he doesn't need to tell this person.
No, he doesn't. No.
And he would know that.
Yeah.
But it's him
connecting.
It's just him connecting to that man, and he feels at home.
Yeah, that's right.
And he probably has already made the decision that he's not going to.
He's going to wait with the French.
Yeah, that he's going to stay with the French. And
it's another really like cheesy but beautiful moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to read up what happened there, but a lot of British were left behind, and they a huge range of different things happened. But yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was just after this, actually. Like one of the craziest moments of the first act of World War II was. It would have been after this. So soon after it, like when Vichy France and Nazi France were established, the pro-fascist French were going to take a bit further north in France the French Navy, and the British knew that they could definitely hold out against the Germans, but there was no way in hell that they could hold out against the Germans plus the British Navy.
Well, do you mean the French Navy?
Plus the French Navy. So the British went up there with destroyers and killed like 3,000 French.
Jesus.
Sinking the French fleet. And I think they stole some of the ships as well, but they definitely sunk like the French fleet. In sheer desperation, directly ordered by Churchill. I don't think it was public knowledge for like 40, 50 years or something. And so like just what ended up happening between the French and the and the British, and then it's like, Charles de Gaulle, who was just a fucking nobody, is in England, and he's like in charge of the French the French army that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
But the French army that they're like building up in Britain to then go back, take their home back, which, in terms of this film, it doesn't happen for another 4 years. But it's, I think that it's one of those things when you watch a film that's based on moments like this in history that you go, I know what happens to you. With Tom Hardy's character, he would have been put into a prisoner of war camp. Yeah. And depending on the area that he was in, if he was in Germany, they death marched them at the end of the war. They just walked them until they died. So walked them either east or west, depending on where they were, and just kept going with them. Just crazy, like awful stuff. And that's if they didn't, Great Escape and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just really... there's all that sort of looming. The thing I love that's what I really love about the film, not giving a greater context to it, or not going on and not doing this, and it doesn't go any further. It stops because it's called Dunkirk. It's specifically about one thing, and it's about the emotional feeling of it, and the fact that the British didn't respond to it by giving up.
So we kind of talked about the Admiral's arc, but to kind of summarize his arc, which was really amazing as well, is that I guess if I were to think of it, it's steadfast hope and strategy, which gets challenged when that ship gets sunk right at the thing, and he has to make the call about push it away. What about the injured on board? Push it away, So that hope gets challenged then, but remains, and then gets rewarded by his people coming to save him, which then finishes his arc with, I'm staying for the French, because like strategically, even ignoring like just the camaraderie that existed in that moment, he was a man of strategy. He was a man of like the calls he made were accurate. It even has that moment where it's like, it's going to be 3 hours before the tide rises. It's like 6. That's why I'm with the Navy and you're, with the Army. And that's like, that's kind of a testament. One of the few lines that the character even says. It's such an important one because it is his character arc. He is a man of strategy. He's a man of the people. He's there for the people. And he kind of, that character arc resolves in that. And we don't know what happens at that point, because we don't know how he involves himself with the French.
But the job he had to do was done.
That's right. Well, yeah, and he stayed.
They did their best.
Yeah.
They did their best far beyond anything they could have imagined was going to happen. And
was it 300,000? And then when he's like...
Yeah, like 330 or so.
And then I'm going to do some more.
Yeah.
And, that was the British side. And then we have... okay, so what we have next is obviously the father with his son and the son's friend. And now that's a really amazing character arc because, I'll just start it off. The amazing moment right at the beginning when they're loading the boats up, the boats are being commandeered, and you can see, like, even I was confused watching it the second time because I completely had forgotten until I really kind of clicked in my head that they didn't just want to give their boat up. They wanted to be the ones piloting the boat. Yeah. They were there for their people, and they were willing to sacrifice themselves for that. And that first moment is like we've been saying with all the other characters, is a personality trait that these three characters kind of hold together.
Well, I think like it's interesting that they're all doing it for different reasons. Like he's doing it for, as we find out later, his son died 3 weeks into the war.
That's right.
Like 9 months earlier or so. So to me, not necessarily the character's aware of this, but he's saving his son.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I like it.
All the young boys over there, that's who they are to him. So he's saving his son. He
says that, I think. Not that he's saving his son, but he says that line, which was, I forgot what it was. Something to the effect of like, the guy's like, we can't go back. We're not going to go back to Dunkirk. And he's like, it's our boys out there, like old sons and old things. Something to that effect. That
he has that. He couldn't save his son. But he can save his country's sons. I don't think that's reading too much into it. I think that is the psychological like motivation of that character. His son is, to me, an empathetic follower. And then George makes it very clear, like
empathetic follower and an excited, not excited, but like a keen learner. Yeah, he wants to, like he's not just. He's there to learn. He's there to follow his dad and actually like be honorable, and he admires his dad as well, obviously.
Yeah, it's quite And then George he says later on, like, I just wanted to, I
want to be in the paper.
Yeah, I want to be in the and the thing is so interesting, like he sounds like he's quite a screw up. Like from what he describes, it's like my teachers, it sounds like he sucked at school and he never did anything particular. And
his parents didn't think he'd ever amount to anything. Yeah.
And it's that thing of like, but he went to try and save people in Dunkirk. Like, and despite the fact that he dies through some a completely stupid accident
Mm-hmm.
and a completely avoidable accident. It's like that doesn't lessen. He's an interesting character because you don't know if it's naivety, stupidity, or like why is he going out there? I say it's probably naivety and being a young boy and you think you're invincible, and yet he comes away like labeled as someone who was courageous or brave, and that's fair. He had every intention of being there for every moment of what was coming. And that he was deprived of that. He's an interesting character. That is a really interesting thing to put into the film to create choices that characters need to make. What are they going to do with the soldier? What are they going to tell him? What are they going to turn around and go back to save him?
It was a super honest portrayal of the characters that they established. Look at the moment with the door locking.
Yeah.
The boy makes the call about locking the door, misinterpreting kind of what his father was saying, but he doesn't question, like he does a bit, but I guess he doesn't properly question unlocking the door and letting him go. And he learns from that. That's a lesson for him. That's like respect, admiration, once again, of like naivety, but following the person that he admires, which is his father. His father sticks to character the whole way through. He's honorable. He's trying to save people's lives, but he's understanding. He sees the war. He is like a beautiful consideration, which in that moment, once again, with the door, he says, unlock the door, let him out, and then we have our follower, like, not a follower, but our like naive, like hero set. I mean, he doesn't actually play a massive moment in that, but he's obviously an onlooker in all this.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite moments with the father character is that bit with the end with the RAF pilot, because that was one of the things the army felt really betrayed by the RAF because, but again, like it's stuff that's all off screen but gets mentioned by Kenneth Branagh's character. Is like they're saving for the next battle.
Yeah,
they need him for the next. So exactly what they were doing.
The more important battle, to be
absolutely
strategically
honest. Whoa, that was it. I mean, they were sending planes out as they were being constructed. Like it was just, it's unbelievable what they managed to achieve. So you have that bit, and the guy says,
where were you, or like
where were you?
Yeah, whatever the line is.
And keeps walking, and the father character says, the RAF guy, like pointing at the soldiers who
he's walking off his boat,
who came off his boat. He says, they know where you were.
Yeah,
like that's makes me just so like teary, just like even thinking about that moment. Yeah. It's just so,
because you can't.
It's a gift. That's a gift.
Yeah.
To a person.
Yeah,
that's pulling someone
out of the darkness of like what it is to realize. I mean, funny enough, we were talking about that movie yesterday, The Meg, and it's like, it's obviously the stupider version of it, but there is an element to that. It's like, you got to sometimes not just see the failures, but you got to see the success. And you got to see the thing that you did that's going to help people. And he saved 30 lives by taking down, like a particular plane or whatever. Yeah.
And that guy is not talking about you. He's talking about the RAF.
That's right.
And again, it's like you're always going to personalize those institutional attacks. Like, when the other guy's character, the guy from that boy band, when
Harry Styles.
Yeah. When he says like they're going to be spitting at us in the street, all that kind of stuff. It's like he's taking on the loss as, I was a coward. I failed. I did these things. And so he's personalizing it. And that's the same thing in that moment, very briefly, what that RAF soldier does. It's very clear in the performance on the face of the character. He's like, fuck. Like, yeah, where were we? It's like, you were there.
Yeah.
That's where you fucking were. And he he reaches out and gives him that at that moment because he sees that he needs that. And like,
well, can I jump in on there and just say, like, this is a little bit of a side note, but it really makes me think about like mental health. Like, this is like a whole different like topic, but that super importance of like of the simplicity of like something nice that someone says, the simplicity of someone showing you that or showing you that they're there for you or something like that. You know, like it's amazing how a moment like that could change your entire life.
It's one of the things that's quite interesting from a historical perspective is how relevant that is, because shortly before this they had a different prime minister in Britain who had absolutely hardlined the approach of appeasement, which was, if you keep just giving Hitler a few of the things that he wants, he'll stop. He'll stop. And Churchill was sort of off in the wings being like, he's fucking not going to stop, because this guy is like...
He's looking to take it all. He's not looking to half-step this.
He wants everything. And under the previous prime minister, the tone of the nation was very strongly, we're not going to war. And the number one reason was, we remember what happened in the last one.
Yeah.
You know, the Great War was like just one of the most foul events.
Well, that was the turning point
history.
of the way warfare started to change, right? Like that was still trench warfare. That was still throwing men at walls, and then suddenly
from the European perspective.
Yeah.
The Americans in the 1860s had already surpassed that,
right.
tactically and strategically. But
from a European perspective,
yeah, that was just basically, it was a Napoleonic war fought with machine guns. So.
And bodies.
Yeah, they were just throwing bodies at the meat grinder until something worked, and it never happened. The Germans just ran out of resources. It's not, no one won.
Yeah.
So that was the terror of the British people, and it was pure psychology. It was just absolute fear of, we're not sending our boys off to get back in that meat grinder because we saw it last
Well, I was about to say, the parents were there.
The parents were there.
Yeah.
And they know what happened. So when you have that what's so interesting is how Churchill managed to actually get the psyche of the nation turning around. That's the interesting aspect of that sort of that psychological switch, is that those moments there are really a microcosm of what England experienced, of what Britain experienced as an empire, you know, as a collective. They experienced this thing of, just let Europe sort it out. We're not Europe. We're the British Empire. It's their problem.
Yep.
Blah blah blah. And it's like, no, like this is fascism, and fascism needs to be exterminated from the face of the planet. Is perspective sort of, you know, 1A, and 1B is plus we're next.
yeah, that's right.
So like, of course, there'll always, for any nation, there'll always be the selfish motivation, but of course we'll be next. And despite the fact that it's like resource-wise not actually really being possible from the German perspective, but it's interesting how those sort of like little moments mirror that turnaround. And I think he does that in the film, because that's the moment at which that turnaround happened. That was the decisive moment, and that speech that Churchill gave in Parliament was the turning point for people in the war, you know, that will fight them in the air and on the beaches and the landing grounds and that kind of stuff. It's like, and saying like, America will come, you know, the cavalry will arrive, like that, the stuff that he says in that speech, that stuff really plays into it. So I think that I think I love about what Christopher Nolan does is in the film is he takes completely justified pride in the history of where he's from. And that's one of the things I really like about the film, is that there's this really human and beautiful element of nationalism and pride that's in the film. And you can see, like, he's really proud of what, probably his parents or grandparents' generation did. And because they didn't just preserve Britain, they held the Germans at a point long enough that others could come and claim victory.
Mm-hmm. And this is, I mean, this funny enough, all came from talking about the father.
Yeah.
And it kind of wraps up in that, like, to be honest, there is some beautiful moments that happen, and some of the best scenes are on that boat. But that is the character arc. It's like they, like the father wants to save people, and we talked about the 3 different personalities, and we wrap it up with seeing what that means and the way they respond to our, bombshelled hero, and the way that he works, and the way that, like, he causes chaos, and they still they still forgive him, I guess, is probably the biggest choice of words. And in their own way, that's kind of English pride, and how that, like, they came back from this horrific defeat, and it was not like, boo, it was a forgiveness. It was like, we understand.
The use of the term shell shock is a demonstration of a compassionate person culturally.
Yeah.
So before the term shell shock, literally the term for those people was coward.
Yeah, right.
That wasn't like it
was a condition.
You're suffering from cowardice.
Yeah.
And you can find old footage from, like, the war and afterwards of, like, shell shock people who haven't been treated psychologically. It's awful to watch, but I do think it's really important stuff. Like, the one that's always stuck in my head is there's these British men, and they're having a conversation with a guy, and they're all laughing and all that kind of stuff, and then suddenly one of them whips out a German helmet,
yeah, right,
and the guy starts screaming and has a breakdown.
Oh god, what a horrible thing to see!
What a horrible! And they start laughing.
Really?
The other people laugh because they're like, "Can you believe it? Isn't that?" And this is the thing: is that is absolutely what they thought. And then this changeover between the wars happened, where they acknowledged, wow, people can be emotionally damaged by this. They're not cowards. They're somehow, they didn't have true, depth of understanding, but they could understand that there was psychological problems. And Band of Brothers has one of my absolute favorite, portrayals of that change in mindset between those 2 wars, which is, one of the soldiers, he's a sergeant, and he has his 2 best friends blown up in the same, like, shell explosion, and he gets, like, he basically, like, gets sent off the lines for, like, months. I think he was pushed out for the rest of the war, kind of thing. But in World War One, like, you would have been shot.
Yeah.
For that, if you were physically fine and refused to go back into battle, you would have been shot.
Yeah. You're a traitor.
Yeah, you either would have been summarily shot or court-martialed. So, like, just the fact that he uses the word shell-shocked is
significant.
It's significant, and it's not a technical term. It's not it is a technical term, but I mean, from that character's perspective, it's not a technical term. It's he's saying to his son, be understanding. Mm-hmm. He's shell-shocked means you don't fucking
He's not
know.
himself, and he even says that.
He says that, and he may never will be again.
You see it in one small scene where he's a different person. Completely.
And that's the thing I love about the film, is just that Christopher Nolan sticks constantly to this human, despite the fact that there's so many characters and you get to only get a few inches deep into them in one way. Mm-hmm. As in, you don't spend very much time with each of them. There's no single character in the film that you basically... It's not a character-driven film in that you deeply understand and know everything about a character kind of thing, or as much as possible.
You don't see a full character transformation as much as you see a moment in a particular character's life, and you kind of...
Yeah, despite the fact that he doesn't structure the film in a way that allows him to go through sort of normal character development.
This character was not feeling like crazy and exhausted, and then we see him slowly run out of food and then be shot at, and his friends die, and he becomes exhausted, and he becomes like he wants to escape. Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, yeah.
So instead of doing that, he just reverses the order and makes us in 3 seconds understand. Without, to me, sacrificing emotional depth. Yeah. It's a brilliantly crafted film to me. I'm sure that lots of people could watch the film and go, eh.
Well, this leads me on to our last, as far as correct me if I'm wrong, our last major story arc, which is, in my opinion, the story arc that glues all the story arcs together, and that's the soldier trying to run away, trying to get out of
the guy from the first shot. Yeah,
that's right. And we start with him, and I remember watching it at the cinemas and being like, man, that was a boring scene. And like, because it was so, there was no franticness in the fact that they were getting shot. It was almost placid. And obviously watching again, and as I watched it the first time, I remember getting to like halfway through the film and it really clicking with me, going, these guys, and they show it. They're trying to siphon water out of the bottom of a tap. Then he also like siphons a cigarette out of the thing. He's trying to find just little bits of food. They're scavenging through bins just to feed. They're exhausted. They're starving. They like even if they were being shot at, they don't have the strength to sprint as fast as they can with everything they're carrying.
You also just do get shot and fall down. I mean, that's the thing that is so disturbing about all this stuff is like, all of us in our lives will be terrified at some point, scared, stressed, anxious, blah, blah, blah. Generally speaking, for most people, particularly terror, is going to be an extremely short period of time. It's a surprise, or it's so you think something's happened. You might have an hour of it, max. But imagine that being normality.
Yeah.
And so you're taken into this thing where it's like, what happened? Like, what happens to you? What do you do? How do you act? War is the most bizarre situation that a human being can be put into.
Yeah.
And it happens for long enough, or at least in the case of, most World War II soldiers, like it happened to them for long enough that things that are just so fucking bizarre become completely normal. Like he comes around that dune and someone's burying the guy and they don't
even talk.
They don't even talk.
He doesn't realize he's French until he's like, just say something, and he's like, oh fuck, he's not,
because he's like, you're upset like me.
Yeah.
You're scared like me.
Yeah.
You can't talk like me. Like you don't want to talk like me.
Yeah.
You don't need to anyway. And it's that sheer terror aspect, and he's an interesting. He's
a super interesting character, but when like, looking at it from a distance, his character is very, when you look at it without thinking about it, it seems almost passive and boring. When you think about it, you go, he's numb and terrified, he's exhausted, and he's desperate.
And everything that you need to know about him when they tell him to force the French guy out of the boat. That's all you need to know about him.
Yeah. That's his arc. That's like the peak of his arc. It's the
wrong thing. I can't live with it.
And yet I won't do it. I won't go myself. I won't sacrifice myself for him.
Yeah.
But someone's got to do it. It's like, well,
because he's terrified.
Yeah.
But and it becomes that thing of like, okay, then let someone else do it for you. But he still doesn't reach that point. Like, circumstance prevents that moment from happening.
Well, his whole character arc is that. His whole character arc is his passive experience with what's going on. He very rarely, I mean, he does, but he very rarely creates opportunity. Opportunity is shown to him, and he takes it.
He attempts to, though.
He attempts. Oh,
he down at the start of the film when he's down crawling around by the when he's under the dock.
No, once again, that was an opportunity that was given to him. There was the other guy.
The other guy tells him to come down. That's right.
That's when he takes it. The only time he ever kind of takes a moment in himself is, which to be honest, even isn't, is that when they pick up a stretcher with a guy that's still alive. But even that moment is given to him, and it's a passive. He very rarely like it makes a moment happen. He sees a moment and he goes with it, and it's always the direction of I want to survive.
Yeah.
And I guess the only moment where he really kind of
I want to go home. He says that later
Yeah.
in the film. I want to go
well
home.
in that moment that
Yeah.
is, I guess I mean I could be corrected if I went through it again, but I guess that in his character arc is one of the few moments where it was a real he had to step
He
up.
made a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He stepped up in front of them and challenged the guys to say, you can't do this. But throughout the whole film, he was just, I see this thing happening, I'm going to go along with it. I see this thing happen, I'm going to go along with it. I'm going to go along with the whole thing. And then one moment he did, and then, and then he gets pushed to his threshold of his personality and what he's going through, and he falters. He goes, I'm not willing to sacrifice myself, but I think this is wrong, and he can't reconcile it. And then once again gets shifted back into his passive circumstance where they get shot at, and now he's back where he was at the beginning of the film, where he was just going by the motions, which I think is such a fascinating character arc, which I initially interpreted as like meh, and then got really like...
It's interesting because the thing that's interesting about making a war film is that you get to put people in circumstances where, depending on the characters and the events that you're depicting, you create a context for where we can see who characters really, really are deep down, because it becomes about survival. And when people are surviving, that's when who they are, that's like I'm just grossly oversimplifying things.
Yeah.
But like you see who they are and discover what they're like. And then, but the thing about war is that you do that in a context where, as an audience member, you're deprived of your ability to really judge, because they're in a situation that, as I was saying, is like the most insane thing, like scenario that you can put a human being into.
That's right.
So, so you look at that thing and you just sort of, you always kind of fall back. He's one of those characters where you sort of fall back and go, what would I do? That to me is what he means.
Yeah, okay.
It's that
he makes the audience like the person who runs away from the killer in a horror film, the one that actually doesn't run up the stairs but runs out the back door. Still dies, but runs out the back door. As an audience member, you're like, yeah, I mean, he died, but that is what I would do. Not run upstairs like a stupid idiot.
And he does. He's the one that opens the door, isn't he? On the side of the sinking.
The French guy is.
Oh, the French guy.
The French guy has a moment where he realizes that they're under there, and that's what he says.
That's right.
You saved our lives.
That's right. Yeah.
Blah blah blah. That's that whole moment.
That's right.
Yeah, because it proves that he's not a German. Because they never interacted vocally. It proves that he's not a German when he saves.
That's right.
Lives.
He jumps off. He stays on and opens the door.
Yeah. He goes to jump off the boat, and then he realizes the door's still locked.
Yeah.
And then he climbs his way, despite the fact that the boat's sinking. Opens the door, jumps off the boat, at least giving them a chance to be saved, which is what saves our character.
That's right. That's right. He looks up and he sees it. Because earlier on they say, "What's with your friend?" And he says he's looking for a way out.
Yeah.
Or an exit or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
End of that sentence is in case something goes wrong.
I don't even think the idea was that in case something goes wrong, because something will. The intention is what, like, his.
But he says that because he's looking for a way out in case we start sinking. And it's great because, again, One Direction guy or whatever.
Harry Styles.
Yeah.
I don't know why I remember that so well.
You're in love with Harry Styles.
Who is
yeah, he's the one that he says that to, and Harry Styles' look is like he's scared again. Because he just felt so safe on this boat now.
Yeah. He's having his tea, he's eating his like jam on toast.
Yeah, but it's
short-lived.
Yeah, it's good. It's a really, really, really good film, and I love it not because it shows warfare itself in a way that I think is amazing and accurate and all this kind of stuff, but just purely because of the humanity of it. To me, Saving Private Ryan does the same thing using very different methods.
Yes.
But it was interesting. I commented on Facebook recently on someone's post about Saving Private Ryan. These few people like saying how much of a piece of shit that film is, which is quite a common.
Really?
Like, yeah, a lot of people really don't like it.
I mean, I can see people not liking it because it's too. It's a bit graphic and it's like
no,
it makes you feel like
it's contrived and it's like they say like the opening part is like great and then from then on it's like stupid and where were the British and the Canadians and the this and that. It's like
yeah, but that wasn't
it's not
story.
the film.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're watching the wrong film. The film is about what does a teacher do when given an opportunity to go home.
And I guess the like historically inaccurate parts start from after the beach, right?
There's tons of historically inaccurate shit on the beach.
Well, no, but my point is that that's when it's like, well,
it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Like,
we're not trying to show you what it was like to be on Omaha Beach or in the war. We're just kind of,
we want you to feel what it was like.
Yeah, that's right.
Not exactly sure. And that's the thing. It's like, it's all an emulation. It's all like, what does this feel like? And that's why there's so much like shit about like people shitting on that film, like, in my opinion, have watched it nowhere near enough, or when they watched it, dismissed it and failed to truly watch it.
Well, they saw it superficially.
Yeah, absolutely. And critiqued it for things that it wasn't attempting to do at all. And what that film does do, it does brilliantly. You know, the are there sort of like cheesy bits and all that kind of stuff. The only part of that film that I feel is like a bit is when he's firing the pistol.
I was literally
the plane happens to drop the thing at the same time. It's like, to me, that is the only moment where I go,
but I like it because it's so delusional. Like, it's so not.
I like it because they're so close.
Yeah.
To living.
Yeah, that's right.
And they, you know, and only two of them are left.
Oh, we got to do that movie next. Maybe not next, but like.
No, I did. If we're segueing to the end, we haven't talked about sound though, or music.
No, it's fine. We don't need to. There are really important elements, but we're talking technically, but we don't need to talk about them. Like, that's the stereotype. That's what people have heard about it. It's Hans Zimmer's use of the thing, and it's fucking. All I mean, sound itself, and then we did talk about dialogue and all that shit. And
music is amazing. My favorite part, aside from just the brilliance of the music, I do like how they work that ticking into the film.
I didn't even notice the ticking, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you if there was.
And my favorite thing is when he makes the decision to turn his plane around. When he's like got the bomber in the rear view, the clock is going, and then as he turns the plane around, it goes.
And the other thing I really liked is
that's his clock. That's his mental clock.
What I mentioned before, that it seemed like Hans Zimmer used the ambience as music.
Yeah,
the rattling of the plane was in time with like a beat of the song, and I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I
don't know how intentional that was, but still, like, that was really.
I would doubt that there's anything unintentional in that film. Yeah. It's one of those movies. It's one of those movies where, again, everything is so boiled down that there's not enough happening at any point in terms of. Christopher Nolan's constructed a film where he can absolutely control everything. To me, that's how that film feels. Whereas, like, if you're making Dark Knight, I intentionally never look into these things because I really love that film and I don't want to analyze it. Like, you know, I'm sure there's tons of plot holes and stupid shit and stuff like that. But like, I don't care. It's a ride I really enjoy and I don't want to think about it. But you know, because he's constructing this really intricate thing and it's going around, it's doing these things like Inception. Although Inception, I think, is I used to think that it was contrived and had a lot of bullshit in it, and then a teacher of mine at film school suggested thinking about parts of it from a different perspective, and I was like, fuck you, dude. Just turned this from like a really flawed film into one of the best films
and
ever.
The irony of like you have a film that's like littered with exposition to like the complete contrast of someone with barely any exposition, only like you know, 20 lines of dialogue. Drama. And still amazing. I mean, it's him Nolan flexing his freaking muscle. I mean, because his brother and him wrote Inception. Yeah. And he wrote this film. So like, you know, like you can see his range, right? What a showreel. But yeah, anyway, we should wrap this up because I mean the most important elements that we talked about is what we talked about.
Oh, for sure. In terms of next thing, though, I think you'll be quite happy to hear what I have to suggest.
Ooh.
So I watched...
Next up on Not Chilli Podcast is...
Yeah, I watched... I don't know if you've watched it. It's so good. There's this guy who has a YouTube series called Lessons from the Screenplay.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, and he did this episode on American Beauty.
Oh, yes.
And the thing that was interesting about it is he focuses almost exclusively... he has two episodes, by the way, on American Beauty, which is not often for him. So I haven't watched the first one yet. I watched the second one just because the name of it stuck out to me. And what it was, it's about how they cut... I never knew this. There was an extra 25 pages in the script, and they shot it.
Yeah.
I didn't know they shot
the courtroom?
No, it was way more than that. It's it's that and a bunch of other shit. And yeah, basically that whole the whole...
Who did it? Who killed Lester Burnham?
It's a whodunit film.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, when I found that out, I was like, that's interesting.
I think that we should watch the film together and then watch his 2 episodes on it and then have a think about it. Or just watch that material cut out episode. Because I think probably the first episode would infect us with his... opinions or
on it. But I've seen the movie too many times for me to be infected by that kind of stuff.
I think I would probably So I'm not gonna watch that. I'm not gonna watch that first video until after we watch it again. But
I'll watch it.
But that second one, just focusing on the idea of you've shot the film, you don't know what film you've really made, and now you're gonna cut stuff out to make the film that you didn't set out to make.
It was my opinion on I mentioned American Beauty and that particular point with the film Prisoners that we did a podcast about. And my main point in Prisoners was that if you were to describe that film, it reads as like Taken with like some elements like that. But that's not why you watch Prisoners. It's a fucking amazing character film. And the same thing goes with American Beauty. If you describe that film, it's like, oh, some coming of age film where a guy's like, like shakes up his life. But the reality is from the very get-go is that he's going to be dead in it, and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. But it sounds like, a Ben Stiller film where he's trying to, do something dramatic.
I would love to see the Ben Stiller version of American Beauty.
Yeah, right. Well, then watch freaking that movie was like, is it something there was a movie
about Mary?
No. It's not a comedy. It's like a movie where he...
Walter Schmidt or whatever.
That's the one. Yeah. Anyway, point being is that American Beauty on paper sounds like a really kind of average film, but it turned into a masterpiece. You put the right actors, you put the right director, you put the right cinematographer in the same space.
Editor,
of course, editor.
That's the. So anyway, that was my suggestion, because that added I get, like I said, I watched it again recently and I actually liked it for the first time, and then watching that video, it just made me really want to watch it again, and then I was sort of like, it'll be a bit of a waste if I don't watch it with you.
Yeah, do it. Absolutely. I have so many feels about American Beauty.
You don't have to buy a copy.
I've got it. I've got 2 copies.
Do you have it on Blu-ray?
No.
I might get it on Blu-ray. I know
do it. No, do it.
The cinematography is really good.
Stunning. Yeah. So no, that sounds like a good next time. Next time on the Not Chilli podcast. Hopefully it will be, if it doesn't get pushed back to another date, depending on how I edit. But yeah, let's wrap that up. Like, obviously we like Dunkirk. I recommend if you...
Oh no, having said all that,
it was terrible. Yeah, worst film I've ever seen. Only good because of the technical ideas of 4K. I think that's probably the only reason why you should watch it.
It looked good.
Yeah, it did. It was freaking amazing. And, this is obviously a spoiler-rich podcast, and so...
Good to say that at the end.
Well, no, we said it throughout, but that's the whole point of it. So people have seen it and people have enjoyed it. And maybe, I hope that when people listen to this, they go... Like, if they were like, Dunkirk was a bit... They look at it and go, I got hopefully have a new perspective on it. And a new perspective on HDR 4K.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Just make sure that online there are lists where you can read what the pipeline has been for each film to get to that Blu-ray.
I love that you know this.
It's important. I don't want to watch some fucking 1080p upscaled shit. Like,
Yeah,
if
I
you're gonna
agree.
watch it, you want to watch it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, that's why I've only bought 3. 2 of them are Nolan's, because
Nice.
he's and Planet Earth, because BBC like went all out on that, and it does just, my god,
We should do one on that.
Amazing.
That'd be amazing.
just absolutely amazing.
But anyway,
Right,
we
yeah.
should be done. So yeah, thanks very much and bye.